All right, we're just going on vibes today. We're just going on raw emotion. We're just going on feeling. The Sabres with a catastrophe against the Avalanche. What is there to say about it? Well, stay tuned because maybe we'll get a rant in, maybe sadness, pain, but we'll do it together. Coming up on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, and thanks for making, especially today, the Locked On Sabres podcast, your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. That includes our YouTube channel, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Today's episode of the show brought to you by FanDuel. Get the season rolling with the big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Sneaky Joe DiBiase coming to you on a Wednesday following arguably, or maybe I don't want to just do recency bias here, but it's hard to beat what happened last night. Talking to you after probably the worst loss this franchise has suffered since I've been doing this podcast over the last 5+ years. It's now been over 5 years that I've been doing this show, and I don't quite know that I've ever seen anything as bad as last night. Maybe I've said that before. Maybe I said that after they lost 10-4 to Dallas a couple of years ago. They blew a 4-goal lead to Chicago a couple of seasons ago in 2022. So there are probably days where I said the same thing, but today really feels like it. And maybe the timing is why today is going to feel worse than some of those other days a couple of years ago. The Sabres fall 5-4 to the Colorado Avalanche at home. Casey Middlestats return, 4-game losing streak. They didn't even get a point. They were up, the Sabres up 4-0 in the first period, and they fall 5-4, including 4 goals allowed in the third period alone. What are we going to do with this hockey team? So today, honestly, my plan, these episodes, usually recapping games, are a little more structured. And we'll break down the numbers of it. We'll break down goals. We'll look at, everything. And I just kind of want to go on vibes today a little bit more. I think fans today want to hear less of, well, this is what went wrong on this play, and this is what went wrong on this play. And it's just more about the overall. It's the big picture. It's the feeling of the team, and it's the mental of last night. I mean, the previous 3 losses on this losing streak were much more about core problems on the ice for this hockey team of they don't have a lot of talented goal scoring. This game was more about, oh, you just panicked. You just completely got frazzled. You got in your own heads, and you completely panicked. Lindy said it himself. Alex Tuch talked about how frustrating. Tuch really showed how frustrated he was after this loss. I mean, his face was red, and he cursed during it, of course. If you saw that quote, called it horse bleep, their effort in that game. Called it repetitive, redundant, that we've been doing this for years. And Tuch, remember, one thing I'll say about Tuch, apart from a lot of the other guys, yeah, he's from here. Yeah, he's the poster child for Kevyn Adams, guys who want to be here plan. Tuch, though, has lived the other life. Tuch had played in Vegas. He went to the Stanley Cup Finals. He knows what it's like to be on a great hockey team. Some guys, Thompson doesn't know. Dahlin doesn't know. A lot of these guys don't know what it's like, the other side of things. Maybe Middlestat told him at dinner the other night. Tuch knows, and maybe that's why he's the one that seems the most upset about it. It also could be that he's from here and he wears that logo on his on his heart and his sleeve, whatever you want for that. And, maybe he does care a little bit more about how bad things are. But either way, what a calamity. But the words on the side here on our YouTube channel: catastrophe, disaster, calamity, pain, all the emotions that Sabre fans are feeling. How do you, in that spot, on a 3-game losing streak, think of all the context, think of all the circumstances surrounding last night's game. Yeah, it's a good team. It's a great hockey team. But they showed you right away why they are 500 this year, Colorado. Because they can't stop anything. Their goaltending's terrible. And it has been all year. Alex Georgiev just would have let anything in last night. And then he goes out, and it was Scott Wedgwood that the Sabres could not beat to get a 5th goal. Scott Wedgwood was the Amerks goalie like 4 years ago. Like, you couldn't beat Scott Wedgwood? Are you kidding me? The Sabres in this game, what do you say about it? Immature? But, just so many different directions that you could really go with this, that why that game happened the way it did. It's not a night for, in some ways it is. My point all along on them has been, I don't think they're as talented as they think they are. I don't think they're as talented as they think they are. I don't think they're as talented as some people think they are. I don't think they're that talented. Offensively, I don't think they're that gifted. They don't have a lot of proven goal scorers. I mean, even Jack Quinn. Like, Jack Quinn's somebody we've spent a lot of time on this year because he still has not beaten a goaltender on the year. But Jack Quinn is somebody, he was drafted highly. His career high in goals is 14. This isn't some 30-goal scorer that's letting them down. This isn't Skinner in year 7 that's letting them down. Dylan Cousins has one 20-plus goal season. This is not some Chris Kreider who they're upset with in New York right now because he's fallen a little short of expectations because he's had like 4 straight 30-goal seasons. Like, this is not that. These are young players that have had some big years, but like one big year, if that, and those are the guys that you could say are letting you down. I might say this is just what they are, and you're counting on them to be more than what they are. Last night, though, again, they're fragile. You want to say they're soft? Go ahead. Last night. How they get in their own heads like that. How they're not eliminating bodies from the front of the net in the third period when everything is falling apart. How they are sitting back on their heels for 2.5 periods. I mean, I know Lindy Ruff enough. There's no way Lindy Ruff was telling those players, oh, yeah, play prevent defense the rest of the game. You would have been saying play your game, right? And you saw him when he called timeout in the third period. Like, guys, relax. Like, you could see it. Lindy is telling them all, calm down, relax, stop running around. You're getting all frazzled, whatever. Like, you're fine. You're still, when he called timeout, they were still up in that game. I think they were still up in that game. Like, settle the bleep down and get your you-know-what together. And then they didn't. They went back out there, and they didn't do anything differently. They didn't act any differently. And, this is going to be a day to talk big picture for me. It leads to what this group is and whether or not they are the right core for the Buffalo Sabres. And this is 13-year playoff drought. This is with this core group of players. This is year 4. This is year 4 of all of these guys being together. Most of them being together. Quinn and Peterka wouldn't have played as much. For Dahlin and Thompson, it's year 7. But like when Tuck gets here, after they make the Eichel trade, that's really the starting point for this core where they turned it over to that group. And again, this is the 4th season of that. All of them together. And they're still, this is where Tuck says redundant and where I don't want to give them any pass whatsoever for immaturity. Because, all right, 3 years ago, you were the youngest team in the league. And you could still say that you're the youngest team in the league by some numbers. But where's the trend up? Where are you getting better at this? Why, if you were the youngest team in the league, and now you're still very young, but you've played all these games in between. Why am I to believe that you're not going to panic like this in a year, in 2 years, when there's no arrow pointing up? It's not happening less frequently. It happens just as frequently. And last night was the most cataclysmic event that you could have in that department. So, where's the leadership? Where's the talent? Where's all of it? I'm questioning whether or not this is the right group of players to lead the Buffalo Sabres into the future. And the problem is, if this group isn't it, and I'm there, sadly, I don't want to overreact too much, but it's been 4 years. It's been 4 years with this group. Most of this group. I am about ready to declare, for myself at least, that this is not the right core. This group is not good enough. That, all right, you want to keep them together for a 4 or 5 year period? Okay, I could see them breaking the playoff drought. I think Tage is good enough to carry them to that. I think Dahlin is carry them enough to get good enough to carry them to that once every 4 years. But are they great? Are they even close to great? Are they even close to consistently good enough to be the most important players on a hockey team? And more and more, there's a resounding no in my head about questions like that. This is not it. This is not the group. These are not the guys to be your most important players. Alex Tuch is another good example of that. Alex Tuch, on a night-to-night basis, this season, and even going back to when he got here, he is, most nights, relied upon to be their second best forward. Alex Tuch consistently is relied upon to be their second best forward. Second most consistent forward for sure. And he's a good player. He's not that good. He's not someone that you should be thrusting into that responsibility. When he was on a Stanley Cup team in Vegas, and I know he was younger then, but he wasn't so young. I mean, he was 23 years old when they went to the finals. When he was, let me make sure I have that right, by the way. Was he 23 when they went to the finals? Yeah, he was 23 when they went to the finals. Tuch, when he was on Vegas, was the third line guy. He was a good player, but he was their seventh most important forward, sixth at best most important forward, maybe even lower. He was a very good player then, but they were stacked. On a great hockey team, Tuch is more of a secondary player, and he's still a great one. He's going to give you penalty kill goals. He's going to be an amazing forechecker. He could score you 30 goals on a given year, and then he'll score 20 in the other ones where he doesn't produce to his career highs. But to be your second best forward, what are you doing? That's not a guy for that. He shouldn't be relied upon for that. And the reason he's had to is because there have been other players below him that have failed to become that, right? Peterka hasn't even done it yet, although he did finally break that goal drought last night. So, are there any words? There have to be for me because I'm doing a show here. I don't know what to say about them anymore. I don't know. Covering them it's not I love this. I love doing this show. I love talking about them for a living, but they make it as hard as possible, the emotion of it. Not like the subject matter. Hey, they've always got that, right? It's not hard to come up with content for a bad hockey team. You could come up with that whenever you want, but it's more the feeling. It's what it does to your mood when you're a Sabre fan. I had one fan reach out to me, one listener that said, I went to the Bills game on Sunday and time of my life, right in the snow. It's an all-time moment. And the Sabres are about to play. And he's like, I don't think I want to watch this game. He's like, I'm in a good mood. I'm in a good mood about my sports right now. I don't want the Sabres to kind of ruin that. And then he saw that they were starting to get ahead. So he turns it on and then they go up to 4-0. He's like, oh, this is fun. The Sabres. And then by the end of the night, where is he? Feeling depressed again as a sports fan because, the Sabres just drag me back down into the muck, and you got to ignore them basically if you want to be happy about your sports teams. And They have made fans feel like this year after year after year after year for 13 years. And last night is just all-timer, right? It is if you're a Bills fan and you went through the 17-year drought like I did, then this was their Dallas Monday night game. This was the Tony Romo throws 5 interceptions, but they get an onside kick at the end and a bomb field goal. And like you're looking up at the end of the game and you're like, wait a minute, what? We lost that game? It felt like it was a great night. We were up. We were on prime time. We were getting turnovers. Romo was doing terrible. We lost? How'd that happen? That was maybe last night for a lot of fans. There was another listener on Blue Sky who messaged or posted at me that it was his first game. His first game. Hockey game. And first period, by the way, this is awesome. This is fun. This is going to be a great night. It's the Avalanche. It's a team that won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago. This night's going to be incredible. And by the end of it, it's just, why would I ever do this again? Why would I ever come back? Why would I ever come back to that arena after a night like that? All-time, cataclysmic, one of the worst games in franchise history. Maybe that's recency bias. Paul Hamilton at WGR this morning said it's their worst loss in franchise history in the regular season. I don't quite go that far with it, but I'm not that far off of it. Like in my lifetime, it's one of their worst losses because of the timing of it, the context, where you are, the standings are in the locker room, Lindy's back, and this is where I want to get to next. If my fear of this group is not the group, it's not good enough, it's not the right core, what comes next? What comes next? And I have a lot of listeners asking me about that right now because if you are staying up with the news or you're on our text club, we messaged this out to our text club a couple hours ago. Join subtext.com/LockedOnSabres, by the way, if you want to sign up. We sent it out. The Sabres canceled practice today. They are not practicing, and they canceled all media. And what is that? I mean, that could be just, a really long day of film review by Lindy. I had a couple people asking me, like, does this mean someone's getting fired? And I don't think it means that. I don't want to rule that out. I think it more likely than not, though, means that they're doing a lot of film review and they just don't want the players having to go in front of microphones today. That's a guess, though. I don't know that. Maybe they are firing somebody. My reaction last night in the heat of the moment, like a lot of fans, was they should fire Adams tonight. They should fire Kevyn Adams tonight. Somebody has to answer for a loss like that. And this GM is now, he's been here a long time. He's been here a long time. Since the pandemic. Since June of 2020. Since Bottrell got fired. And it's no better. It's not getting any better. And you just hired Lindy Ruff. You're not firing him today. I don't think. So, Adams, right? But I don't know that there is enough of a pulse in that organization right now to even act on that. A real team, a real NHL team that's what would be the talk today. Were they going to fire the GM today? Toronto has a loss like that during a season like this. They fire their GM. Or if it's the time for that, they'd fire their coach if that was the next guy in the cycle, though. And with the Sabres, like, it's funny. We don't really even debate, like, is it right to fire Adams right now? Should they fire Adams? Isn't ever really a conversation we have. It's more about, do we think they care enough to fire Adams? Is generally more of the conversation. So that's where we're at. It's a pretty dark and depressing way to be, and maybe it'll get darker with our next conversation of what do they do next? Or are they just going to keep going in circles over and over and over? We'll get to some of that when we come back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast with Sneaky Joe DiBiase. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NHL and the NFL action all throughout both seasons with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app will give you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you could check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres is also presented by Prize Picks. The best place to get real money sports action is Prize Picks. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means when you're building your lineup and then the games start and you look and it isn't perfect, one of your players does nothing or gets injured and goes right out, you could double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Your lineup does not have to be perfect. You could still cash out. Prize Picks puts their members first. All withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. They now offer Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this season. Sign up today. Get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even have to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. The Sabres fall 5-4 to Colorado. By the way, injury update from that game, as if the night couldn't have gotten worse, lost in the mix, was that Rasmus Dahlin got injured in this game. So a little bit on that real quick. The Sabres never really said what Dahlin's injury was before the year. Well, I guess we kind of found out last night. Dahlin left the game with back spasms last night. And Lindy told everybody that that's the injury. It's connected to the injury that he had before the year in the preseason and into the beginning of the year. So I think we know now that it was a back injury for Rasmus Dahlin. And that makes sense. I mean, I've talked about this from last year that I think Tage Thompson was really hampered by a back injury that was causing him to lose battles along the boards. He wasn't skating as fast. He was kind of getting thrown down to the ice very easily for his size. And I think a lot of that was connected to his back injury. And Dahlin having a back injury, I think, explains a lot because that is a very debilitating injury for an NHL player. So we'll see. No timeline for him. Maybe he'll play tomorrow against Winnipeg. Maybe not. What I want to get to next about after last night's loss is more of what comes next if this all blows up. If this all goes down the tube and they miss the playoffs for a 14th consecutive season like it appears they're headed for, and maybe it looks bad in the process. There's the GM conversation, which it's going to be more about, like, do they want to fire Adams? Do they want to keep going with him? Will they never fire him? That's one part of it. That's connected to this next question, which is, if this isn't the right group of players, what do you do? What do you do next? I half kiddingly, and not fully kidding, posted on Blue Sky last night after the loss, like, I'm about ready to tank again. Because I just don't see a solution that seems reasonable for how you get great on any other way. I don't know how they're going to go trade for Mitch Marner. Who believes they're going to do that? Who thinks that's even in the realm of possibility that they are capable as a franchise of pulling off a deal like that with this current GM or the next one? You could talk about, in not willing to want to make a trade like that, that's your first roadblock. Your second roadblock is nobody like Mitch Marner is going to want to come here. So I'm kind of stuck. I'm stuck from making a big, meaningful trade like that. And if it's not like the size of a Marner trade, I had someone, message me yesterday on the text club. Like we just got to wait for that big, meaningful trade. I'm at a point where a meaningful trade, I don't even know what it does. Does it really save everything? If they go trade for Chris Kreider tomorrow, what does that do for them? It'll help them. It'll make them better. It'll help their goal scoring. Is it going to fix everything? Are they not going to break mentally so easily? Are they what? Are they going to go from the 20th best scoring team in the league to 5th? Like, what kind of jump do we think they're going to have with one trade like that? It goes deeper than that. It goes deeper. So that's one area. Two is like internal growth and just waiting around. I mean, that's probably what's going to end up happening. It's the most likely scenarios. I'll just wait, hope Benson eventually becomes amazing, and hope that Oslin shows up from Rochester and it's great, and hope that Yuri Kulik, it becomes a 30-goal scorer, and we'll hope that Devin Levi shows up and gives them another great goalie, and we'll hope that Owen Power becomes Victor Hedman. Hope. We'll just go down the line of young players and just pray and cross our fingers that those kids are going to save them someday. It's probably what's most likely. That's probably what's going to happen. Is that going to work? How confident is everybody that's going to work? The third option is you tear it down. And I don't know what there really is in terms of a teardown. Going to the bottom. I got into it a little bit with Kevin, NT Ryder, who's a good Sabre follow, about, like, can they even go to the bottom? Do we think they're bad enough? My thought was, well, an Eichel, O'Reilly, and Reinhart team finished with 62 points. So anybody could finish last. He made some good counters that, like, this team might not have that in them because Dahlin is too consistently good. Thompson is too good. Luukkonen is too consistent right now as a goaltender that they don't have a last place finish in them. I still think they might, but I think it's a reasonable counter. All that being said, what are you tearing down? Because last time he tore everything down, it was easy. Everybody wanted Jack Eichel. Everybody would have wanted Sam Reinhart. You found someone to take Ristolainen for a first, which is still incredible. But selling last time, you had top-level players. You had elite players. Who do you want to sell off this time? You want to just dump Dylan Cousins? I'll tell you right now, that contract's untradeable. No GM in the league is going to want that contract. For free, I don't think they would want that contract. At that, till 2029, you think they want to sign up till or 2030? They want him right now? He looks shot. You think any GM in the league wants Matthias Samuelsson on his contract? Those deals are untradeable. What kind of value do you think you're getting for Jack Quinn right now? And he's one of the younger guys anyway. So, like, do you even want to do that? Paterka. All right, you don't want to sign him. You might get something decent for him, but he's not Eichel. He's not Reinhart. He's not, he's had one 20-goal season. Get over yourselves thinking you're going to get some massive haul for JJ Paterka right now. Who are they trading? And the only answer to that question is Dahlin. And I'm not ready to have that conversation. I don't think anybody's ready to have that conversation. I hope we never have to have that conversation. That to me is more a conversation where about a year from now, maybe it'll happen sooner, where we once got to a place with Eichel where he hadn't asked for a trade. There were no trade rumors, but there was that fleeting thought of, I wonder when he's going to want out. That happened about 2 years before he actually got traded. There was the wonder of, I wonder when he's going to want to get traded because he's not going to do this forever. And that ended up being true. Eichel told them, this was almost exactly reportedly how he put it too. I'm not going through another rebuild. I'm not wasting my whole career here with this team going in circles trying to figure out how they're going to get good. I want to win. I want to win before my career is over. And he has, by the way. I am not saying Dahlin is even within 3 years of saying that. But he's not going to do it forever. He's not going to go to the end of his contract when he's, 31, 32 years old, and then say, yeah, I think I would like to go try something else. It happens before that. So you could debate how long before that. But to me, there are only two things that are next. There are two big things that could be next. And one is way more immediate and way more realistic and should happen way before is the GM getting fired. And we figure out what comes after that. They go back for an old school hockey guy, like a Ken Holland or a Pat Burke, something like Brian Burke, excuse me. Like, do they do something like that? Do they go with Jason Carmanos in their own building? Do they try somebody new who's up and coming? Do they what do they do? Something that's what's really should be next. And the other thing, again, is what I just said, that's a little further off in the distance, and you hope you never get there, is what does Dahlin think? Is he losing it? Is he going down the same path that previous players have, where they get to like the 7th, 8th year and they go, I don't know. This is year 7 for Dahlin. And for the comparison, Eichel was in year 6 when all that happened. So actually, Dahlin's already gone further, I guess, which might give you some confidence that he would do it longer and he would keep going and going. And you hope it never happens, but just no, it's off there way, way in the distance. And it's not impossible that someday he'll show up and say, guys, what are we doing here? No, you want to start over again? Well, I'm out. I'm hitting the ejector seat. Luckily, there's no signs of that happening, though, at the moment. But that's what's next, right? Like, that's what happens when you stink this long. That's what happens when you can't get it together. That's the consequence. And if the Buffalo Sabres don't want that conversation and they don't want to ever have that conversation with their captain, if they never want to have that conversation with one of their top players again, then they got to get it together. And how do you get it together? You're willing to improve the roster. You're willing to spend to the cap. You're willing to make big trades. You're willing to find ways to score goals. A lot of things that they have not done in the last year. So until that happens, I don't know. I don't see it getting much better. All right, that's a riff for 30 minutes. If you got a thought, check us out. You can hit us up on our text club, join subtext.com/LockedOnSabres. What did I miss? Where did I go too far? Let me know, because it's an emotional day for Sabre fans, and being centered, being well-grounded is not really called upon, I think, when this hockey team has put their fans through what it's had to go through in the last 13 years. Again, no hockey team in the history of the sport has ever asked their fans to go through a time like this. And this is about to be a 14th season of it. That's going to do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Sabres and Jets tomorrow as they look to bounce back against the third best team in the NHL. Doesn't get much easier. And we'll try to find some answers and figure out and talk to you about why practice was canceled, if for any reason other than film review. That's next on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Sister shows, be sure to check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Steele and Flip. They got you covered throughout the week. And then Joe Marino, Locked On Bills, some happier conversations. Micah Hyde's back with the Bills. You want to check that out? Go head over, click channel over to Locked On Bills with Joe Marino. We'll talk to you tomorrow here in the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.